You are listening to the Mayner Leadership Show with Desi, Mayner, and Jeremy Klein. Hey everybody, we're going to get right to the show, but I just wanted to remind you that if you'd like to see some of what we're talking about broken down, like on a whiteboard in front of you, on video, using your eyeballs, and probably some other valuable original content, go check out our Mayner Leadership YouTube channel, which is absolutely free as well. See you there. Now let's get rocking in today's show. Leadership is a massive word. It's a huge concept, and with that, becomes its importance, but also comes confusion, comes watering down. What's leadership? It's 107 different things. So when we say, what does it take to be a leader? Well, there's 2 billion different skills out there, 7 million different traits, all these types of things, and we're trying to work on all of them at the same time, which means that if we're working on everything, we might not be working on anything, right? So today what we want to hone in is the only 4 actions that a leader must take. There's really 4 buckets that everything goes under. There's these 4 skills, and we're going to break them down step by step for you. So if you're on YouTube, awesome, you can watch on the whiteboard. If you're not, you better go on YouTube so you can see the stuff broke down with your eyeballs on a whiteboard. And while you're there, make sure to hit like, subscribe, share, comment. We'd love to hear from you guys, answer your questions, and we'd love a review. If you're on podcast there, that always helps us to share this to more people so that we can get the word out. And hey, maybe you're a leader and you're trying to get a head start right now. You need that kick in the butt. You need that push. Jump on MaynerLeadership.com. Throw your email in, subscribe to our 4-day leadership challenge. You get 4 videos, you get action steps, and you can get started on it right away, right now.
And how much is that? Pretty expensive?
So that is absolutely free. We just want to help you out, right? We just want to help you out at the end of the day to start leading your team now the right way. So as leaders, we have a passion, and that's what gets us to become a leader, and we're working on things that are bigger than us. But the problem arises when we need and want someone to do something for us, with us, for the company, whatever it may be. Everyone has roles, goals, responsibilities, but what do we do when they don't do it? Yeah, is the question.
Well, and you're going to break down the whys, the hows, the what to do, but let's just rewind and look at maybe how not to do it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm in leadership now, and I need you to do something, and you're not doing it. Well, that's simple. I'm your boss. Do your stinking job.
The old hierarchical approach.
Yeah, and it's getting confused with my role and my title as a boss and not a leader. My job is to lead you and not to manage, to micromanage, to boss, or to lord over top and enforce you.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, that's the only tool set, maybe skill set that you have, because we're lacking some of the things that we're going to talk about here today.
Yeah.
As far as how do I motivate, how do I show them the why? How do I get them engaged so that they see that they're a part of this, and it's not just, parents sometimes do with their kids. Because I told you so, do it, I'm your boss.
Yeah. And, a lot of times these come out like frustration. They come out like, man, I've been trying to be your friend and collaborate on this, and it didn't work. So, blah, and that's another way to not do it. And you want to do all of this in a collaborative way. And it becomes really, really important. But at the same time, there's 4 reasons why people don't do things. Right? So the 4 reasons why people don't do things. Number 1, they don't know how. Number 2, they're not motivated to do it. Number 3, they don't know that you want them to do it. And number 4, they're waiting on something from you, most likely a decision. Those are really the 4 things why people don't do something.
Yeah, the hinges on that. I don't know how to do it. Yeah. I'm ashamed to ask, and you haven't taught me.
Yeah, and this is a great evaluation tool as well. So it's like even when you look at it like this, it's 4 things. Either they weren't communicated to, they don't know how to, they're not motivated to do it, or they're waiting on a decision from you. It's one of those 4 things, if not 2, 3. Hopefully it's not 3 or 4 of those things. Then we might have a larger problem and need some more leadership training. But it's one of those 4 things right there. And that's what it really boils down to. So use that as an evaluation tool before we even dive too deep into this to be like, hey, man, Bobby or Susie isn't handling it. Did I communicate to them? Are they motivated? Maybe I'm not doing that correctly. Do they know how to do it? Right? And are they waiting on something from me? Did I not make a decision or give them the right direction?
Yeah. And be mindful of this. And you'll notice in just about every one of our podcasts, just about every one of our trainings, self-assessment, evaluation is a big, big deal. And so when Desi says this is a great evaluation tool, if you notice, 2 of the 4 have to do with you as a leader. They have to do with you evaluating, oh no, did I communicate this? Did I set the expectation, or is this more of an assumed expectation? And secondly, is the ball in my court? Everything is leading up and piling up to me just to make a decision that I'm expecting somebody else to do. Check those 2 off the box of the evaluation, and if one of those 2 is, yeah, I didn't set the expectation, you already know. If the second is, oh, I've been putting off or maybe procrastinating this decision, check that off the box. Yeah. If those are sound, simply go to them and talk about the other 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive in. Number 1, communicate. Okay, communicate. Now, what the heck is communication? It is the transfer of information. Simple enough, right? We want to take that one step deeper and move it into connection, which is a relationship between 2 people about that information because we're both linked to that information. So communicate is, yes, transfer that information, but do it in a way that is connecting that relationship and making it stronger, right? But communicate. And I actually learned this from you, Jeremy. And the way I learned it is a hilarious story. You're talking to me about a sales manager working with a sales director. And the sales director was like, hey, how's your call reviews going? And manager's like, I don't do call reviews. And the director's like, what? I mean, man, sales managers do call reviews. So let's start doing call reviews. We started talking about that and looking back, and I said, man, did that director tell the manager, did he communicate to the manager that he's supposed to be doing call reviews? Nope. Oh, so that was an assumed thing. Yep. It's like, oh, okay, check that. So we're going to do call reviews, and we're going to do 10 of them a week. And, here's how you're going to report them to me. Here's the checklist that I want you to use when you use call reviews. Oh, look at that, communication. Guess what happened next week? They did the call reviews the right way. Yep. I communicated it, okay?
Yeah, and with this one, it was the director was upset with the salesman. The salesman was upset with the sales reps because it was just assumed that that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, don't assume, communicate it. Yep. So we have to go right at the problem. We got to isolate the problem. We got to address the problem. And if they don't know that you want them to do it, that is the problem. So the most important part of communication, we have to communicate a lot of things, and we're going to talk about some of those things. But if you're saying, yeah, but Desi and Jeremy, what's the most important thing to communicate? Well, the thing that's going to get you results is communicating and collaborating on the expectations and the accountability of them. When it really comes down to it, accountability is turning expectations into results. That is the definition of accountability. Results is what we all want. Yeah. So we have to be good at setting expectations, holding them accountable to it. How do we get good at that? We communicate. All right, so how do we communicate? 3 steps of communication. 3 steps of communication. Number 1, initiate it and do it. Right? So schedule it, put it in the calendar. Hey, Bobby, we got to talk about this, so on and so forth. Okay, so initiate and do it. Number 2 is repeat it regularly and follow up. Okay, so we can't just have a one-off. We tell our favorite story about brushing teeth, okay? You can't brush your teeth for 4 hours on Saturday. You got to do it every single day for 5 minutes, okay? Twice a day. So that's exactly what we mean here. Repeat it regularly and follow up. Now, the third piece here is that we want to document it. We need to write this down so that we can track it, so that they know about it. And we want to do this in a way that we can readdress this, in our daily, our weekly, our monthly meetings, whatever the regularity is.
And make sure it's clearly documented. You want to also use this not just for tracking, but we just had a 30-minute meeting, and you gave me the expectations. I'm going to want a reference point, and there's a really strong chance, especially based on my personality, that about 55 to 77% of that was forgotten right when we went to lunch.
Yeah.
So make sure that the key points are concisely documented, simply because now that's the go-to. That's the reference point that you say, hey, we talked about this, let's look at our document. Does this align up? Where are we at?
Yeah, we've even done things like have them sign it. Both of you sign it. And we've rolled out, minimum requirements for sales reps. We've rolled out expectations and, accountability points for different teams like that. And, some people want to sign it, some want to shake on it. That depends to you. I don't think there's any data showing a different result either way, as long as it's documented in writing in multiple places, right? And, these are things that we're going to have to do over and over and over and over again. We're going to have to do them regularly. We're going to have to get very good at them. Initiate and do it. Repeat regularly and follow up. Look, leaders are repeaters. Leaders are repeaters. And then document it in writing in multiple places for both parties to be able to see, so that you can track it, right? Main points of communication. Now, when we look at this is crazy. 86%, okay? 86% of executives, managers, employees of 400 companies, all of which had 10,000 or more employees, 86% of them said that communication is the number one cause of errors, failures, and lack of productivity in the company. 86%.
Crazy.
That's insane. 86%. So when we look at time lost, productivity, employee engagement, employee retention, all of these things, 86% of them said lack of communication, poor communication was the reason for those things.
Yep. This fixes the lack of communication. Do this formula. Do these steps. Now, the poor communication, one of the main things that we touch on when we're talking about how do we bring that connection, how do we communicate, oftentimes you're going to say something that the other person is going to hear something completely different. And then you're going to get frustrated and say, well, I told him this 6 times. But 6 times, he heard something else come out of your mouth. And so it's always good to do a check-in. Are you clear with the expectations? What did you hear me just say?
Yeah.
Get them to repeat to you what was being spoken. Because now we're aligned and there's that connection. There's so many times where you leave a meeting and you may be upset, confused, frustrated, because somebody said something to you that was not their intent.
Yeah.
And as leaders, it is more your responsibility that they receive properly what you tell them than that you told them.
Absolutely.
And so that is just in the back of your head when you're trying to communicate a message, a goal, a strategy, any type of system. You want to make sure that your goal in that is they receive this properly.
Yeah. So what is your call to action on step 1? Set a meeting with all of your direct reports. Okay, set a meeting, collaborate on those expectations, whiteboard them out just like we are here, and figure out the best way between the two of you that they want to be held accountable to them, and how that process is going to go. Make that happen, and then guess what? Write it down and document it. Okay, and then follow it up, rinse and repeat, whether it be, I would say at least bi-weekly.
Sure.
If not weekly, we suggest weekly to do this. And when you do it weekly, you get really good at it. So it only takes you, 20 minutes.
Right.
And I mean, like 70-something% of employees are more productive and more engaged when they have a daily touch point with their manager.
Exactly.
Right. So I mean, that's a big number. So go do that 1 or 2 things right now. They're very simple. It doesn't mean they're not easy, but go do them right now. That's step 1, communication. Step 2. What do we got? Step 2, Jeremy?
Write it down. Write it down and document it.
There we
go. It does
go.
not have to be a novel. Don't make it 6 pages. Make it clear, make it simple, make it concise, but write it down and have it documented. And then I take it one step further and make sure everybody has a copy. Is it an email? Is it a paper hard copy that they have? But make sure that we've got this documented, we've got it dated, and then here you go.
There we go. Now that you're communicating like a pro in this 3-step simple format, the second thing that a leader has to do is motivate. Okay, now what does motivate mean? It means to stimulate interest and enthusiasm, this is Webster talking, to do something. Now, the way that we're going to put that is inspire and incentivize. Inspire and incentivize. So when we start to look at the problem of they're not motivated to do it, right? One of your favorite sayings I know is that people will behave how you condition them to behave, which is how we inspire them, how we incentivize them to behave. They're going to do that exact thing, whether it is logical or not. Whether it is logical or not. So that's that piece of that evaluation. So this stresses the problem of they're not motivated to do it. 3 ways to motivate: internal, external, and prioritize. Let's dive into internal. I know this is your favorite one, Jeremy. Talk to me about how do we motivate, inspire someone on the inside?
Well, and studies show that this is going to be the vast majority of your motivation. A lot of people think, and you'll get to the extrinsic here shortly, but that, bonus me, pay me, whatever. Yep. But I first need to know my why. I first need to understand the vision. I need to know my place in that vision, right? You've got a vision. Yeah. We're all moving towards the same end point and the same goal. And man, I feel that. I feel like a part of that. So what is their why? Most of the people that you lead, they probably don't own your company like you do. They probably don't have stock or shares. But as leaders and as business owners, oftentimes we want them to take ownership. We want them not to just all the time, right? We want them to just not be a clock puncher. Okay? One way to do that is starting with why. Why do they get up in the morning? Why are they coming? Why are they choosing your organization to work for? Why? Right? Is it family? Is it legacy? Is it esteem? Is it status? What are those main reasons, right? Because if I can know that, then I can figure out how to match those with what the company vision is. Because the internal motivation is going to have to do with my value set. It's going to have to do with my standards. Yeah. It's going to have to do with my lifestyle. There's so many things in that says, this is how I'm motivated to get the job done.
Yeah, and also, the leader that you are to them. Yes. People are going to follow the leader before the vision.
That's a good point.
So it's your presence, it's how you communicate, it's how you're motivated, and the drive that they see in you. Go back to episode 1 when I asked you that question, and you're like, just the way that you show up, this drive that you have, that I don't even know where it comes from fully until I go walk myself through this 7-step process of why, right? Why is that? Why is that important to you? Why is that important to you? Why is that important to you? Right? And so on and so forth. So that becomes really, really, really important. But also investing in them. When you invest in your people, it gives them a sense of impact, of value, and it gives them a sense of you're not a number.
Yeah, if you don't
You're
want them,
a person.
If you don't want them to feel like a number, don't treat them like a number.
Exactly. They're a person, and hopefully we're not in business to sell a whatchamacallit or a whatcha-did-ya. Hopefully we're in business to grow people, and they'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay? If we can help other people, money will take care of itself. Right? Like, I am a walking, talking example of that. Believe me. When I first started out, it's literally just help as many people as you can in whatever you can. Hey, can I talk about this? Hey, can we talk about that? My first coaching session, I think I charged $20 for. Okay? But it's just helping as many people I can, as many ways that I can. That came back. So now it's like, let's grow people. They'll grow businesses, and that'll be all full circle. We got people growing people. Yep. And that becomes really important. So number 2 is external. So that becomes how are we paying them? What are they incentivized for? Do they have a bonus structure? Is it base? Is it base plus comp? Is it salary? Is it hourly? All of those different types of things. But also, before I ask you the question about that, it's working conditions. It's environment. It's atmosphere. It's support.
Yeah.
Right? It's the communication
Yeah.
of that support and the communication of the pay structure, the working conditions, all those types of things. But talk to us a little about, like, if I'm a leader on here and they're like, okay, pay structure, that's great. What's the best way to put that together to incentivize someone that I want to take ownership of their job, their role, and part of my company?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's going to have to do with probably their role, right? If you've got a team of sales guys, they are deeply motivated by incentive. And it's not just only the money, right? Sales guys can and do make a lot of money or make no money, right? It's one of those.
Feast or famine,
it's one
right?
of those
Yeah.
type of gigs. But the ones who are really good see this as a game, as a challenge, and I have an end goal in sight. So how do I get them to motivate on each of those levels?
Yeah.
Is that a bonus structure, right? Most salespeople, if you give them just a salary and say, I hope you sell something, it's going to take away their hunger. It's going to take away their drive. So really be mindful of your working and operating capital and what the cost of having that sales rep is versus what they can provide in opportunities going forward.
Yeah, I think one of the important things too is when you look at pay structure, when you look at incentivizing, that you need to view this as an investment. So if you're not looking at them as an investment, then they're a straight expense.
Yeah.
Which means you've done that wrong. So that's kind of your checkpoint is, are they an investment in the company? Investments grow versus are they just a bottom line expense?
Exactly.
Because if that's the case, right, and we've ran into that before, then now we got to have a tough conversation. We got to realign that. We got to fix that, incentivizing that pay structure. I mean, we've found, and this doesn't work for every industry, but I mean, we've found that base plus some type of percentage bonus for performance-based incentive plus a base seems to be the winning ticket most of the time. Now, is that going to work in every industry and every role? No. Right? But that seems to be a pretty winning formula, especially with today's atmosphere, society, so many millennials that are hungry, all those different types of things, excuse me.
Yeah, and so there's a big misconception, and we'll probably talk about this more on a future cast, just with regards to sales in general, the sales psyche. There's so many people with that type of pay structure that are afraid.
Yep.
Because I need security. I need something here. And if you think about it, regardless of what you do in your vocation, your security is only measured by your ability to perform. So if you still have to make a widget and I'm paying you hourly or salary, but you're not making the widget, that's really not much different than I'm not making a sale.
Yeah.
Right? And so finding what works for you with regards to 100%, do I use a draw, is this a commission, is this base? Keep them in mind as much as your company, right? I don't want to pay you $1 million and I can't afford $1 million. But at the same time, I want to keep you in mind and say, what's going to keep you here because I value, right? You're not a number. You're helping build and grow this company. So what is that worth to me as a company?
Yeah.
And how does that make sense to you?
And you can go right at that. I mean, you can just say what motivates you, right? And how do we make that work?
Yep.
You know, but it's easy to tell if they're not motivated, right? If they're not motivated, they're not going to do what you're wanting them to do.
Yep.
Third part there is prioritize their workload and explain why. So an example of that is, like, I have two competing things. I got to be selling the Witchy Digit and I got to be doing the call reviews. Okay, so those things could conflict each other. So then I got to say, oh, but you get paid more for selling the Witchy Digit, so you're doing that. Oh, okay, copy that. I need to prioritize those things now, right? And so that's exactly what we mean by that prioritization is, why are you doing this thing that I'm having you do? What is the purpose of the directive? Okay, and then how does it benefit the company as a whole, like organizationally, And then how does it benefit Jeremy, Bobby, Susie, right? Oh, well, if you review the calls, then the people underneath you are actually going to sell more, and part of your bonus is depending on how they sell, right? So actually by you reviewing calls, you're actually helping yourself make more money, which is helping the company make more money, which is helping moving our mission forward.
But if I don't know that, if you've just lumped in a ton of tasks and threw the Legos out on the table, I'm just going to build it however I want.
Absolutely.
As opposed to this, then this, then this, then this. So why are you spending all of your time here when this was number one?
Yeah.
Great point.
So I laid this out for you guys, and I think it was really important. But basically what it came down to, and I'm going to read this to make sure I got it right because I just developed it. Average leaders direct their people. Good leaders direct and explain to their people. Excellent leaders direct, explain, and demonstrate to their people. And great leaders direct, explain, demonstrate, and motivate their people. And I think that is incredibly important. We all want to be great leaders.
Absolutely.
That get results. So make sure that you do those things. So what do? Call to action on motivation. Schedule an all-staff meeting right now. You should be having them regularly, but if not, schedule them right now. And in this meeting, we want you to reshare your why. We want you to share the vision. And I want people to hear the passion in your voice, just like you're hearing from mine right now. Look, we believe in and challenge people here. That's why I was born. That's what we do. And that's what we're passionate about. And I'm going to do that to the day I die. Just like you felt that in my voice and you feel it in yours, they need to feel that in your voice. You need to share that vision, that purpose, that mission, your values until tears are coming down your eyes. And guess what? They'll follow you then. They'll follow you then. And if not, they're not your people anyways. Yeah. But go do that. That will motivate your people right there. So that's two things.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Third thing
is let's train them.
We got to train them. Let's talk about training a little bit. What is training?
Well, we've talked often about teach, train, equip, and empower, right? I can teach you, and we can get our whiteboard out and go through a big lecture. Training is a little bit different. I'm much more involved. It gets back to communication that, okay, what I've taught, you're actually starting to get. We're working through these kinks. Now, there's skills that you don't yet have, so I'm going to teach you the why behind it. I'm going to teach you what those skills are needed to do this job and to perform it. And you know what? We're going to train on it. Yeah. We're going to workshop it. We're going to make sure, okay, man, now I feel comfortable that Desi has a level and modicum of skill that he's able to now perform his duties.
Yeah, I mean, this addresses the problem of they don't know how to do it. But very rarely are they going to say, I don't know how to do that. Okay, so, even, let's go back to, organizing the inventory closet or warehouse. Like, they did it, but they don't know how to do it, so they did it their way, and you went in there, and it's, like, atrocious.
Yeah.
Hey, come here. Right? Oh, that's my fault. I didn't train you how to do that. Oh, okay, so that's actually on me. But when I went in there, I thought that was on you. No. Right? Go back to that extreme ownership. Take it on you. But I think it's important to know that this never stops. We need to have volume in training, and what we mean by that is it's a process of continuous improvement. The training never ends.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just like we learn almost everything through repetition. As you're training this, the first time you hold a company-wide meeting, the first time you do a one-on-one, it's going to suck. You're not going to be any good at it. And knowing that is no different than the person that you're trying to teach, right? You've played sports. You've played high-level athletics from high school through college. Yeah. And first time somebody threw a ball to you, didn't come natural. You didn't know how to read a route.
No.
First time somebody pitched a ball to you, you probably struck out. That's why they have T-ball. And then they move you to coach pitch. Yeah. And then they move somebody. And it just has to have that understanding. Because if you're of the mindset that I tried it and it didn't work, there's going to be just about everything in your life won't work.
Right.
I'm going to try it, and I'm going to repeat it, and I'm going to do it. And that goes with how you train in the volume as well.
And sometimes this this comes down to like, yeah, but I'm the CEO. Okay, but you have a C-suite. Okay, well, I'm in middle management. Okay, well, you have direct reports. So there's levels of this.
Yeah.
But the training never stops, and it's still, no matter what level you're at, it is one of the 4 main actions and skills that you're going to need to take. So we did some research on this, and I was a teacher for 10 years, so retention rates are important to me.
Yeah, these stats are pretty staggering.
I thought this was pretty crazy. And I think this is how we design our workshops and our training, and this is how we help our clients implement to perfect and improve their training system. But you retain 5% from lecturing, 10% from reading, 20% from an audio-visual combo, 30% from demonstrating, 50% from discussion groups. We're talking about it. 75% from practicing and actually doing it. Mm-hmm. And this one is awesome. 90% from them teaching someone else. 90% of that.
Yeah.
Right? That was probably the biggest change that we added and that a lot of our clients are putting into play is when they're training something. Now let's switch seats. Mm-hmm. Now I'm the trainee. You train me in the thing that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Right.
You're going to go through pillars and you have another call to action, but just one other bonus on this. Anytime you pick up knowledge, be it a podcast like this, be it a book that you've read, a seminar you've went to, anything that somebody trained you on, once that's fresh, immediately talk to your spouse, talk to a direct report, talk to a colleague, and try to explain it, try to teach it in the way that you had it. That's what's going to lock that in there.
Yeah, that's key. Yeah. That's a good way to do it. Okay, so what are the pillars of training? What are the 3 areas that we need to train? So step 1 is just the initial training. Hey, here's how we use this red pen, right? When you grab it, you hold it with your right hand, you click the button, that's how we do it. Okay, here's how to do it. That's step 1, right? The other part of the initial training is here's how we want it done, right? So that's a little bit different. And then step 2, and we're going to flesh these out, is demonstrating this and doing it together, which is basically show them to do it, then do the task for them while they watch, then have them do the task while you watch and do the task together. Right? Mm-hmm. So that's the demonstrating, doing together part. And what you're seeing here is the different forms of retention already.
Yep.
And then the last part there is the reporting of it. How do you want it reported? When do you want it reported? What do I want that report to look like? All right, so let's go back a little bit. I said all that super fast. The initial part, here's how to do it. Here's how I want it done.
Yeah, and you can find a way to do something, and it can be done maybe 20 different ways. In Desi's example, here's how you write with a pen. But I need this in cursive, not in block letters. I need this legible, not in doctor's handwriting.
Yeah.
So this is how I want this done. I don't want it to be on 2 sides of a paper. I want it to be on one so I can just flip through it, right? And so making sure that initial is clear and concise. Because I think, Desi, getting back to your very first point, because on all of these it seems like they stack on each other.
Absolutely.
Like if I've not clearly communicated to you the expectation, none of this really works.
Right.
So I'm going to show you how to do it in a way that also follows up and says, but this is how I want it done. You know what? This is how to do this, and you could probably do this many different ways.
Yep.
But here's the best practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And then number 2 is demonstrate and do together. So to break that down a little bit further, like I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna say, look, you watch me while I do this, right? And that does a lot because it's also telling them that I've done this, right? And that I'm willing to do it, and I'm also not willing to make you do something that I'm not willing to do or that I haven't done.
Exactly right.
So I think that's really important. Almost it kind of dives back into the motivation piece of that too. But then do the task together. So now it's literally like, hey, I'm going to do parts A and B, you do parts B and C, but let's riff off of each other too during those parts.
Yeah.
So that's the do together. Maybe I'm on an in-home sales call, and I'm like, hey, you do the open, I'm going to dive in, do some of the testing or whatever it is, the demonstration of the product, and then you come back in for the close, and maybe we'll do that together.
Yeah.
Right. That's a great example of that. And then have them do it, leading you. Okay. And that becomes the part where now we're just observing and tweaking, right?
Yeah.
We're watching the game film and we're tweaking their reps too. So that becomes the demonstrate and do together. And then the last piece, reporting from your background. Talk to me about that, the reporting aspect, how to do it, when to do it, how to make sure the results are happening. Talk to us about your background in sales.
As a leader, you first got to measure what matters. Right?
Very important,
so
yes.
You don't want to get a report on something that makes no effect or impact on your goal or progress, right? There's a Goodhart's law says when a measure becomes a goal, it ceases to become a good measure, right? So if I'm measuring you just by units sold, but if the quality stunk, if you burned a bunch of bridges, well, I'm measuring you great because you sold a bunch, right? So you need to know as a leader, what are the standards and metrics that I look at that I care about? So then, after I explain to this person on how to do this, not only do they know how to do it, but they know why it matters and what they're going to be measured on.
Yeah.
And then, this isn't like every single day I'm going to measure you on 50,000 things. This is going to be like, we often look at metrics like the gauges in your car.
That's good.
I'm not a gearhead. I like cars, but I don't know a ton about them, right? I couldn't fix an engine if it was broke, like one of my good buddies.
Yeah.
But I do know when my gas gauge is on E. I do know when my tire pressure's low. I do know when I need to get an oil change. These metrics, when you're getting this reporting, should just show you that. Are these key performance indicators that are tracking you towards your goal or behind?
Yeah. And that's also going to tell them, like if I say, hey, report the closing percentage to me on the daily. Oh, closing percentage must be really important.
That must matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So think about that too. In what you want reported and how often. That communicates a message to them.
Yep.
For sure. So think that through when you're talking about the reporting piece. So, I played football, basketball, baseball, powerlifting, been to who knows how many competitions. And I can tell you the one thing that I've learned is that the game is not won on game day. It's won in the weight room. It's won on the practice field.
Yep.
It's won, running sprints on a Tuesday night when no one watching. Right, so I think that's exactly what this is. When it comes to training, it's about the practice field and the repetition and the continuity of it over and over and over and over again, so that we're always clear, so that we're always getting better and better. There's always a skill to improve on.
Exactly.
So I think that becomes really important. So what the heck should I do, Desi? Your call to action is this. Set a regular training schedule for your team. Right? Identify the top 5 to 10 skills. Maybe they're policies, maybe they're behaviors, maybe they're leadership skills, maybe they're communication skills. Doesn't matter. Set that regular meeting and start to hone in on what you want your first outline to be. It can be 20 minutes. It can be 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
If you're really in depth, you can take an hour. But I would say to do this at least once a month.
Sure.
30 minutes once a month. That's not that big of a deal to improve your people on the skills they need to succeed.
Right.
I think that's pretty important as we move forward. So that's number 3, terrain. And we're wrapping up the last one, which is decide. Talk about decisions. You guys don't know anything about that, do you? We don't make decisions during the day, especially as entrepreneurs, right?
What we sometimes fail to think, Desi, is by not making a decision, we've made a decision.
Yeah.
We're holding on to something that needs to take place,
right?
But I'm deciding not to act.
Yeah, that's the safest.
So I would maybe even look at that from the standpoint of reflecting on how we make decisions, right? Am I not making this decision because I don't have the information? Am I not making this decision because I'm afraid? Am I not weighed out worst case, best case scenarios? Am I not making this decision because of other people are swaying me maybe for or against what my values and my standards
you're being persuaded or manipulated,
Yeah, or am I just procrastinating?
Yeah, which tends to be a lot of the time.
I'm just too busy, and I lost track, and procrastinators unite tomorrow. I'll do this tomorrow.
I love it. And what this does is decisions address the problem of they're waiting on you for direction, for a directive, for a big decision of which way are we going to go on this. Are we going to cut our losses and move on? Or are we going to take care of our people? Like, I just need a call. Like, I believe in you enough that either way will be fine, but give me a decision. Okay, so that we can move forward. So what the heck is a decision? It's basically a resolution in your mind as a result of you considering different options that we have. Yeah. Maybe it's 2 options, maybe it's 3. Sometimes there's only 1 option, but the other one is doing nothing. And sometimes we choose that option and it's not a very good one.
Right.
And oftentimes that's not a very good one as we look forward. But 2 types of decisions. I'm sure you guys know this, big and small. So when we look at those, I think that there's a different filter to put them through.
Sure.
Versus where are we going to go to lunch or should I get married or not? Those are different.
A little bit. Yeah.
Slightly different, but they do have different aspects to them.
Unless you're really into lunch.
Yeah, which, by chance, if it's sushi, we might be.
Yeah.
Right. But your decision-making process as a leader is one of the most important things that you have. Look, you're a business owner, you're a business leader, you're a manager, you're an entrepreneur. You don't even know how many decisions a day. I don't even know. I could probably look up a stat, but it'd probably be something like we talked about in the mindset episode of like millions, thousands, whatever it is. But almost decision fatigue, especially as an early on entrepreneur. When you're running and gunning with a small team or something like that, you're making tons of decisions. There's no doubt about that. So,
and I think giving yourself that credit.
Yeah.
Because I think it was Marshall Goldsmith that says, like, your ability to make a decision is based on the position that you're in and the power that you have to make that decision, right? And so sometimes it's like, give yourself permission. Even though I'm the CEO, I'm the CFO, I'm the sales guy, I have responsibilities in certain aspects that give me the power to make that decision. Like, that's a really solid point. Like, it is the most powerful process and tool that you have.
Yeah. So 3 points to that tool, that process. 1 is, what decisions do you need to make? 2, how do I make them? And then 3, how do I evaluate, assess, and reflect the decisions that I have made so I can get better and better as we move forward? All right. So number 1, what decisions do I need to make? So there's big long-term ones for myself, my family, my company. And there's also small, short-term ones. You like day-to-day operations, the daily, inner workings of your company, your organization, your sales team, your leadership team, whatever that may be. And then, should I be making this decision, or am I over-controlling and not letting go?
Yeah,
right.
That's a good point.
I think that's a big one because I can speak from my own experience. I'm a high-drive person. I like control. Therefore, I might make too many of those decisions that really disempowers you or any one of our other team members, when that's really kind of swiping the rug under your feet, when I should really just step back and let go.
And that ultimately is going to limit your influence, and it's going to limit your ability to scale. Yeah, because you got to be the guy.
And what does that do to your motivation when that was in your lane and I just stepped over you,
right,
and made that decision? Because I think it should be this, so go do that.
Now I'm just back to punching the clock.
Exactly, right? And that removes all motivation. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do. So how do we make them? So we've got what decisions, and then step 2 is going to be, how do I make them? Okay. Now there's multiple ways to do this. Everything under the sun's already invented. But what we've laid out here is what we've found to be the most effective and really just learning it the hard way, honestly, as we've screwed up I don't know how many decisions. At least I can say that. But the way that I do this is when I approach a small decision, all right, lunch. Can I live with the downside of the worst case scenario? It's really that simple. And then why am I choosing this option? Those are really the only two questions I ask myself for a small decision.
Yeah, pretty simple.
And I think it comes back to when we look at big decisions, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is irreversibility. But there's also a level of the intensity of that. We talked about lunch and marriage. Marriage, is it irreversible? Yes, but tough. Like really hard.
Yeah.
Lunch, no, it's not irreversible. But does it matter? No, not really. Not that much.
Not important.
Right? So we have to put those filters in place as we're looking to do those. But like small decisions, super simple. What's the upside? What's the downside? Why did I make that call? Can I live with the worst case scenario?
Right.
Not that big of a deal, right? Talks about big decisions. The biggest part of that is that mistakes love a rushed decision.
Yeah, I think it's confusing the big decisions versus a small decision, especially if you
How do you identify them?
If you're a very high drive person, you're going to be like, give me the bullet points. This is what we need to do. I'm going to make this decision quickly.
Yeah.
And if we make snap judgments, right? Jocko Willink in his dichotomy of leadership, he looks at the difference of being aggressive and having that as your default.
Yeah.
Right? But also being reserved and calculated and using wisdom so you just don't go in there guns a-blazing, bulldozing, not knowing what the potential, maybe dangerous outcomes could be for your company, for your family, for your friends, that sort of thing.
So detaching.
Yeah, is this a big problem? Like Desi said, is this something that like, okay, upside, downside, best case, worst case. Okay, now, what are the ramifications to this?
Yeah.
Right? Is this reversible? How many other factors does this affect?
Well, that's the key too, because what are the downstream effects?
Correct.
Yeah.
If I drop this bucket of paint and it spills and it makes a big mess and it was a wrong decision, who and how and what areas did this affect?
Yeah.
If I did this properly and we're moving downstream and it's getting us closer to our goal, now I can look at cost to benefit. Is it worth me having to clean up or cover contingencies from these errors?
Yeah.
Or is this something that I might not be able to come back from?
Yeah. And I think when I go to make these big decisions, I always want to do it fast because that's my personality. So I have to battle that. That's a big battle for me. Right. So I've laid these out because I've screwed all of them up. Which is kind of how we learned them.
Yeah.
But what's the environment, the atmosphere, the scenario that I want to set up to make my best possible decision? So number one is get some sleep. Get some sleep, which I suck at because when I got one of these big things, like it just keeps going. It just keeps going. Hey, I want to tap my wife and be like, hey, can we talk about this? She's like, it's 2 a.m. And I'm like, yeah, so? Okay, that's wrong. Sleep.
Yes.
Sleep. Because this decision is a big one. And it's going to have downstream effects and probably doesn't need to be made like within the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
Right? Now, should we set a timeline on it? Yeah, no doubt. We should set a timeline on it because if not, we're just going to stress about it forever until somebody tells us what to decide.
Right.
Okay? So get some sleep. Number two, and this was really interesting. I'm an old offensive lineman, and in college I gained over 100 pounds. So this was very interesting when I looked at the data of this. Make sure that you're fed. And here's why. They say the word stress eating. So there's this gym owner, this influencer, and he started talking about this, right? And he said, you're literally more resilient to stress when you got a full belly. And I'm like, stress eating, that is the thing. It is real. It is scientific. And it works.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe don't eat at McDonald's, but make sure you got yourself, that you're well fed during this time. You know, I mean, you hear all the time that people are so busy and they're so driven and they're so worried, they got anxiety or whatever about this decision that they don't even eat. So make sure you're well fed.
So hangry is a thing.
That is a real thing.
Gotcha.
That is a real thing, and I will or will not mention my wife in that segment, but hangry is a real thing. Don't tell her I said that. She may or may not listen to these.
Don't edit this.
So we'll see. Number three, remove yourself from your normal space, right? So we talked about detach. For me, I'm in the deer woods. I'm on an oak flat somewhere. I'm in my fishing boat.
Yep.
If you guys know that, I love to hunt and fish and camp. But for me, that gets me out of my arena. That gets me out of my normal world. You don't want to make this decision or go through this process while you're sitting in your office.
Yeah.
Where you do the same thing every day. You're going to struggle to detach.
And this goes with just about everything that we do, right? In the condition that we're in now, in 2022, a lot of folks are working from home.
Yeah. Yep.
Understanding the environment and the role that environment plays is a really big deal. Like, you're not going to sleep on your kitchen table. But oftentimes we work in our bedroom.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
We're not going to make decisions oftentimes, or shouldn't, that's a big family decision in the midst of corporate meetings or having to do stuff.
Right.
So taking yourself, we'll talk about detaching from the outcome of needing or feeling desperate to make the decision, but the environment and anticipating and having an expectation that I am purposely removing myself from this to focus on this is such a key.
Yeah, and then I think leading right into it is, and this is hard, this is what's hard for me too, which is why we're talking about it, is you talk about detachment from the outcome. You have to come from a place of not needing.
Yeah.
Like, if you absolutely have to have this thing that you're trying to decide, let me tell you something, the decision's already made, right? Whether it be a good one or bad one. So you got to try to find a way to come from a place of not absolutely needing in that scenario.
Yep.
Right now, the best way that I do that, that we've learned, and that we help people do that, is I use this bad boy.
Yeah.
I use the whiteboard, right? Because if it's all in here, it ain't gonna work. It's gonna be all jumbled. I'm gonna be all stressed out. I'm not gonna be able to sleep. I won't want to eat until I get it all figured out, and it's never gonna get figured out up here. Okay. So I use that. I lay out the pros and cons of what are all my options, A, B, C, D, E. Hopefully there's not more than that. And then what are the pros of each? What are the cons of each? What are the downstreams of each? Who is it going to affect? How is it going to affect them? I write it all down. It's not pretty. It's scribbly, but it's whiteboarded. It's all laid out so that I can see it, so I can show it to other people. And that's the other thing I do is, I just went through this. I got a big thing coming, awesome partnership about to take place, and I'm seeking wise counsel. I'm going to 2, 3, 4 people, my pastor, my mentor, my coach, my friend, who are a little further along than me, or been around more, or have already done the thing that I'm trying to do, and I'm asking them what they think. I think that's a really important piece. We say all the time, leadership's not meant to be done alone.
Yeah.
So you're not on an island. There's people in your world that will help you with that. Go seek them out. Seek that wise counsel. And then the last piece of this, number 3 of decisions. So we got, what decisions do you need to make? How do you make them? And then what is our evaluation assessment process to reflect on those decisions?
Yeah, and again, I said this earlier, this is probably going to be from now until episode 537.
Let's make sure that we earmark that. So in 537, we will say that.
We'll say this. Evaluation, self-assessment, reflection. Sometimes we're so busy getting into the minutia of stuff that we forget. Most of our life, we talked about this in our mindset podcast, a good percentage of your life is just done on autopilot.
Yeah.
You figured something out, you're going through the motions. You didn't stop to say, was this a win? Was this a loss? Am I tracking? Am I progressing? Where am I at in this situation? So I would even schedule that out.
Yeah.
You want to be in constant evaluation, but then I want to assess on the second Monday of every month. I'm going to look at my whiteboard or what I've taken down in notes to say, this is what I needed to accomplish. This is what I needed to do to make the decision. And you know what? When I wrote that down, this was the goal. Ooh, man, we're super far away from it.
Yeah.
Or we're close to it.
And that's, separating the outcome from that quality of decision. A great example of this is baseball.
Yeah.
The greatest hitter in the world has a career average of 300, and they're in the Hall of Fame. So, but they fail 7 out of 10 times. So when I'm on fail number 5, should I change my swing?
Right.
Oh, well, that's a big decision because I hit 300, and that gets me in the Hall of Fame. So that's where, perfect example of the outcome and the decision may not align.
Correct.
So you got to think that through. You got to look at that, reflect on it, because no, I shouldn't change my swing. I just need more volume. Right. Or maybe I need to make a better decision on the pitch that I swing at, right, versus changing my swing. So I think that becomes really, really important when you look at those and put them through that filter. But, why did I make that decision? You talked about that a little bit. And then did I have all the information that I needed to make that decision, or did I kind of gun it and go too fast?
Yeah, because by the time you've made the decision after I'm assessing, I may have more information now.
And probably do.
Right.
And I think that can be a hard thing that I know that I always am super hard on myself because I have more information, data, and awareness after I've made the decision. And now I'm like, man, I shouldn't have done that. It's like, okay, well, that's unfair to me because I can't use the information I have now to assess the decision that I made a month ago.
Yeah.
Because now I've put in a month's worth of reps. I have this much more information. I've talked to this many more people. I've tried this many more things. That you're comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah. And man, that's life, right? Like, how many of you, knowing what you know now about a decision that you made, would have been like, there's no way I would have made that decision?
Man. So many. It's crazy to think about.
Thousands for me.
Oh, absolutely.
But how much did I learn at each step along the way with regards to not that topic, but with regards to making a decision?
Yeah.
I didn't know this. I didn't know the metrics. I didn't know the finance. I didn't know this. It was emotional. Like, I was a drive type person, so I just made a snap judgment. Hopefully, at every one of those, like we've done, I mean, like I have hair, you have less, but I have probably more dents back there from falling on my face, learning from some of these things that I know that I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I know that the next decision that we make together as a company, maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, but we are armed with more info from the last 65 decisions that we've made.
Right. And that's an important thing to remember when you're being hard on yourself is like, just like that 300 hitter in baseball, they still get it wrong 70% of the time. So we're only going to get a certain amount of these decisions right. And we might not even know which ones were right.
Yeah.
Good Lord willing that we're going to see a sign or a result that gives us that info, but we might not know.
Right.
At the end of the day. So I think that becomes an area to always keep in mind of like, hey, do I want to be a 300 hitter, a 400 hitter? Like, I think, a rule of thumb is that, we want to get 51% of the decisions that move in the right direction.
Yeah.
As we always say, you can't stand still. You're either moving forward or moving back.
It's one or two.
So we just at least want to move forward 51% of the time. So we're always making progress.
Yep.
Right? Call to action about decisions. Identify one small one and one big one that you need to make right now.
Yeah. What decisions do you have?
What's on your plate?
In your life right now that you have to decide on. Categorize them.
And walk through it right here.
Is it big? Is it small? What type of decision is it? How do I set this up? And then set yourself a timeline to make the decision. Go through this process.
Absolutely.
Evaluate, assess, and reflect.
Yeah, and do it. And, be easy on yourself. You're going to suck at first. You'll get better. Don't worry about it. Volume, repetition.
That's right.
It's about the practice. So, 4 things, the only 4 things that a leader needs to do well: communicate, motivate, train, and decide. At the end of the day, here's what I want you to remember. Being advanced is simply never not doing the basics and the simple things over a long period of time, regardless of how busy you are and how much you got going on, to stay disciplined. And yes, there was a double negative in there. Never not.
Yeah.
So always do the simple things, no matter how busy you are. And the simple things are this: communicate, motivate, train, and decide. Take inventory and make it happen. One tiny step, right?
That's it.
That's all they need to do. Hey, thanks for watching today, guys. If you're on YouTube because you want to see this stuff broken down on the whiteboard with your eyeballs, hit that like button, subscribe, comment, leave us a question. We'd love to hear from you. If you're on podcast, Apple, Spotify, all the goods there. Subscribe, share it to a friend, and hey, write us a 5-star review so we can reach more people, help more people. And then, hey, maybe you're that leader that needs the push in the pants. We'd love to challenge you. We believe in challenge people. Jump on there, throw your email in, get a 4-day leadership challenge. You get a video every single day. You get step-by-step. You get action plans to help you move forward and get started and get results right now. That's it for today. Thanks for listening to the Mayner Leadership Show, and have a powerful day.